Today we'll be examining Mizmor Kuf Lamed, chapter 130 in Tehillim, Shir HaMa'alot Mima'amakim. And this is a Mizmor with which many of us are familiar, and yet I think that there's a tremendous amount to be gained by taking that step back and sort of re-examining this Perek of Tehillim with fresh eyes. Sometimes it's precisely the content areas with which we are most familiar that we don't necessarily look back at more carefully and re-examine as more mature adults. And so the opportunity in taking a look back at this Mizmor, I think, is really a tremendous one. And so the Mizmor opens Shir HaMa'alot, a song of ascents, one of 15 such songs. Mima'amakim Kraticha Hashem, I've called out to you from the depths. And then it continues with the same word, Hadoshem, Hashem, Shim'a v'koli, listen to my voice. Tihiyena oznecha kashuvot l'kol tachanonai, may your ears be bent, may you listen carefully to the voice of my entreaty. A couple of observations about this pasuk, in particular, the transition from the previous verse. We said that the first pasuk closes Mima'amakim kraticha Hashem. The second pasuk opens with the same word of Hashem. That's important for two reasons. Number one, this is a literary phenomenon which we'll be encountering, a literary device, which we'll be encountering throughout this Mizmor. It's known as staircasing. It appears with particular prominence in Sefer Tehillim and throughout biblical poetry in general, where you have a second pasuk opens with the same word or theme or a set of words, the same phrase as the previous pasuk. And I think what that does is it highlights, reinforces the connection between these two psukim. And clearly we'll see that this, as many other sets of psukim in this Mizmor, really constitute a couplet. They really go together. And really the theme of the first two psukim is very much that sense of desperation, of despondency, of turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Except that we don't know what about. And that really brings us to psukim Gimel and Dalet, and there we continue and read, Im avonot tishmorka, if you hold on to, if you guard sins, Hashem, again that same word Hashem, a sense of intimacy, a sense of closeness, mi ya'amod, who can stand. That was the second point I was going to mention earlier about the Shem Hashem. It's particular that first person reference, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is so prominent here, and I think that speaks volumes. I think what we're going to see is that sense of a personal relationship is really one of the key themes of this Mizmor. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you hold on to sins, who can stand? Ki yemecha haslicha, for with you is forgiveness, lema'an tivarei. That's actually an unusual phrase, which the Mefarshim pick up on. Lema'an tivarei, so that you be feared. Almost as if it's saying that God keeps the keys of forgiveness to himself and only himself, so as to ensure that people have to turn to him. There's a sense of reverence that goes along with that, knowing that there's only one address with which to turn with their sins, namely HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I think that the emphasis in these two psukim is that, again, it's with regard to what does the Mishorer turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What is the source of the sense of desperation, of despondency? It's particularly with regard to sin, in that the only address to which to turn is really HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Ki imecha haslicha. It's Hadoshem. In other words, again, that it's not just about slicha, it's not just about forgiveness, it's that we're turning directly to God. In these first four psukim, Mima'amakim kraticha Hashem, there's a direct first-person address of the individual, of humanity, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's not just about forgiveness. Forgiveness is an avenue toward intimacy, towards closeness between the mitpalel, between the one requesting the slicha on the one hand, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Adoshem, in particular, on the other. The Mizmor then turns to its second section. The first four psukim, comprising two couplets, is the first section, the call directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And here we find a broader reflection on the part of the speaker in the Mizmor. Kiviti Hashem kivita nafshi. I aspired, I hoped to you, God. My soul aspired toward you, or toward Him rather. V'lidvaroha chalti, toward His word I awaited. So here we have again the sense of two, but here in the sense that it's kiviti and kiviti. It's the repetition of those two phrases. V'lidvaroho chalti, I awaited God. And here it's not only particular necessarily to slicha. It sort of broadens the conversation. It's almost a meta-reflection on the part of the Mishorer, saying that I am waiting for you, God, that I crave that relationship. Nafshi ladoshem, my soul calls out to God. And here again, it's picking up on the previous pasuk. It's the staircase again. Kivta nafshi, and here it's nafshi laHashem. So it's picking up on the theme of the previous pasuk. Even more mishomrim laboker, shomrim laboker. Even more than those who guard, the watchmen await the morning. Imagine someone who's guarding a city or a particular area. There's obviously a reason that there's a need for the guard, namely that there's a sense of danger in the air, and so therefore the shomer, the watchman, the guard, is perhaps anxious, worried about. There's perhaps some consternation, and there's a tremendous sigh of relief that comes with the arrival or the break of dawn. And so even more, Mishomrim laboker, Shomrim laboker, even more than the watchman awaits the morning, my soul awaits and reaches out to God. That's how much there's a sense of cleaving, a desire to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And again, it's the kiviti, Shomrim laboker, the reinforcement. This is something that's truly been internalized by the Mishorer, that deep-seated, very profound, even repetitious, almost redundant, but really it speaks the depth of that commitment, of that connection to God. And then the Mizmor closes with its final couplet and the conclusion of the second 4-pasuk section of the Mizmor, Yachel Yisrael el Hashem. So after the personal reflection, turning to Klal Yisrael, or at least addressing something with regard to Klal Yisrael, that the Jewish nation as a whole should aspire toward God. And again, it's Yachel, just like Hochalti, reinforcing the relationship among these various psukim, the second section. Ki im Hashem chesed, for with God is kindness, v'harbeim mo fidut, redemption. So again, it's not just about forgiveness, it's about redemptiveness. It's about that relationship and how it really truly can be transformative. V'hu yifteh, again, staircasing for the third time, v'harbeim v'hu yifteh et Yisrael, he will surely redeem the Jewish people, mikol avonotav, from all of its sins. And the term avon going back to Pasuk Gimel, reinforcing the broader relationship within the Mizmor between the second section, which concluded obviously just here, and the first section earlier, that it really brings it home. So I think when we re-examine this Perek carefully, we see some very beautiful themes. We see a very clear and tight structure, 2 overarching sections, each one comprising a couplet. We see some beautiful literary tools that are used in the Mizmor, whether that be staircasing, the repetition as a way of deepening the sense of internalization, the repetition of the name of Hashem in particular, which expresses the notion that the Mizmor is ultimately not just about an individual or a national attempt to achieve atonement or forgiveness, but really it's ultimately about the broader relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.